Okay, we're going to continue on with solo ads. I really want to dive deep into the terminology because I remember when I first started, I was trying to buy traffic. I had no idea what a solo ad was. I really felt completely lost when people were talking to me and I was trying to buy it. So let's go over a few things. One, a solo ad, remember, is you're paying somebody to mail their list. So when you're doing that, you're talking to a solo ad vendor. That's the guy who has the list. Now, when you approach him and say, hey, can I mail your list? He's probably going to say something like, okay, well, how many clicks are you looking for? Now, what a click is this, is you're going to be giving him your link. So for example, mine would be chrisfarcher.com, right? There's advanced things here with tracking, and I'm not really going to do that to get you confused here, but let's just look at my primary link, right? chrisfarcher.com. So I'm going to give him this link, and he's going to put it in the email and then send it out to his whole list, maybe 10,000 people. What I want is, let's say I buy 100 click solo ad from him. Well, that means that he will keep mailing his list until 100 people click on that link and land on my page here. If I want a 500 click solo ad, well, that means he's going to keep mailing until 500 people click the link and then come here. So you can see that it's very effective. And if you've been one of these people out there, like, how do these guys get so many sales and signups? They join a business and they have, 30, 40 people in the first week. How are they doing that? A lot of people are spending some money. They're marketing. So all that money isn't profit to them, but a lot of it is. And obtaining a customer in your business is usually more valuable than the upfront, commission or whatever it is. You build a relationship, you partner up, you could make sales later on. There's so much more involved. Before I run off on a tangent here. So that's what clicks are. And a few things that you should know when you're speaking to a solo ad vendor, that to them, they're going to charge you a price, right? So for 100 click solo, they might say, okay, well, I do 65 cents a click. Now that's expensive. So if somebody's going to charge you 65 cents a click, they better be a good solo ad vendor. 30 cents is really cheap, and right around 45 to 50 cents is probably like a good range. Somebody charging 45 to 50 cents, I'd say that's fair. So if somebody says, I'm going to charge 50 cents a click, well, how much is that going to cost you? Well, 50 cents times 100 would be $50. Okay, so you're going to be spending $50 for a 100 click solo ad, which, it's just is a fair price. Some things to say to a solo ad vendor would be, hey, are you usually pretty good about a little bit over delivery? That means that, even though you're going to buy 100 clicks, will he send you, maybe 125? He gives you a little bit extra for over delivery. You definitely don't want to be put on a rotator link. So you tell him, hey, look, I want this a single solo. I don't want to be put on a rotator, because what that means is he's sending out an email. They're clicking the link, and the extra traffic is getting. It's just not what you want. So you just tell them no. Okay, so you don't really need to understand it, but just don't want to be on a rotator link. Um, what else do we need to do? A swipe copy. He may say, okay, let me see your swipe. That's really just an email. So an email, your subject line should be, just try to make a good, enticing subject line. Get them to open the email. And then when they open the email should be short and sweet. It needs to be a couple lines in your link. And that's really all that needs to be to it, because your main objective here is to get as many people from his list to click that link. This way you can get some over delivery. So that's really all there is to it with solo ads. It's not a complex thing. It's just kind of getting started. You just have to get out there, get your feet wet, and say, you know what, I'm going to take 50 bucks. I'm going to go try a solo ad to see how it works for me. When you really want to do it the right way, you should be tracking. So for example here, right? So I'm going to just open up. So this person, this was a while ago. I sent a 300 click solo ad. I ended up sending 325 clicks. Now I don't sell solo ads anymore. Very rarely do I do that. But you should be tracking. And if you know how to split test, you should be split testing your page. Remember, so I've kind of went over this stuff. I'm not going to get into the advanced stuff. This course is to show you the overview and show you how to do this stuff. But to really tweak it, I would be tracking my pages, my conversions. This way I get more clicks, more leads, more sales. Hopefully all that makes sense to you. Again, I appreciate you here being on day 6, and day 7 training's coming tomorrow. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.